I mentioned yesterday, guys, Publius over at americablog.com writing about the methane problem and global warming and the possibility of stepping into a methane-induced spiral, a positive feedback loop that would spiral us down into a great extinction. And some idiot called, well, I shouldn't call our listeners idiot. This guy was an idiot, though. Some idiot called and said, "Do you know about the emperor penguins?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, the emperor penguins are almost going extinct. A group of them almost died because there was too much snow in Antarctica. They got cut off and blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, where'd you get this? You've been listening to Mark Levin or something? I mean, where did this come from? So I haven't trolled the right-wing websites yet to find out the specific, story he was talking about. But I did search emperor penguins last night in the real media, the fact-based media. And I found an interesting article over at The Guardian. The emperor penguins are the tallest of the penguin species. Remember that movie that was made a couple of years ago about the penguins that was so cool? Yeah, March of the Penguins. It was like, whoa. Those were emperor penguins, I believe. And, although maybe not, I don't know, whatever. In any case, here's what Suzanne Goldberg writes in The Guardian on the 29th of June. This is just, 3 days ago? The entire population of Antarctica's famous emperor penguins could fall by a third by the end of the century because of disappearing sea ice, putting them at risk of extinction, researchers said on Sunday. So apparently what's happened is over on the Reich, one of these guys who are funded by, the Koch brothers and the other fossil fuel interests, and the Koch brothers are a major fossil fuel interest. Koch Industries, the largest American owner of coal tar sands in Canada and refineries and pipelines and all kinds of stuff. One of these shills on the right, and Politico pointed out how Mark Levin and Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh, all these guys are taking money from right-wing think tanks that are funded by these fossil fuel billionaires. And not just money. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And on the left, there's no analog to that. There's nobody who is, to the best of my knowledge. If there is, I'm not in on it. Shall I say? Nobody's saying, "Hey, here's $6 million. Will you please pitch my line?" But somehow somebody took this story and turned it into proof that there's no such thing as global warming, which is what the right does really well. Hey, up is down, left is right, black is white. Right. This was published in the journal Nature Climate Change, a peer-reviewed scientific publication. As the top predator in Antarctica, they note, the main threat to emperor penguin survival comes from climate change, which is melting the sea ice. Now, it is increasing the ice on land in Antarctica because you're getting more snow down there, because the warmer it is, and anybody who's lived in like Vermont or New Hampshire or the Upper Peninsula of Michigan or North Dakota, the northern plains states, knows what I am talking about. And I have lived in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and I've lived in Vermont, and I've lived in New Hampshire, in the northern part of both states, or the central northern part of both states. And what happens is when it gets really, really cold and it snows, you don't get real high stacks of snow. In fact, you typically don't get that much snow at all, because when it's really, really cold, the air can't hold that much moisture. And when it's really, really cold, as the snow falls, it literally evaporates into the air. The air is so dry that it absorbs the moisture out of the snow as it's falling, and a lot of it just ends up back in the air, and it doesn't fall on the ground. And when it does fall on the ground, it's this feathery, easily blown, light stuff. It's when you're close to 32 degrees, when it's snowing and it's 30 or 31 degrees out. That's when you get the really, really heavy snowfalls. That's when the clouds can drop out precipitation, and it comes out of the clouds in large quantities. The air can hold a lot of moisture. The clouds are typically only 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 feet above the ground, at least the base of them. You get thunder snow, sometimes lightning along with snow. So what's happening in Antarctica is the normal snowfall is increasing in many places because it is warming. Because when it's 10 below zero, you don't get much snowfall. When it's 25 degrees, you can get a hell of a lot of snowfall. Okay, so number one, you're getting more snowfall on the land. But around the perimeter of Antarctica, where the sea ice is, where there's snow that has turned into ice that is on water, because the oceans are warming, that ice is melting. And the emperor penguins need that ice because they dive through holes in it to go down and collect the krill and the little tiny fish and things that they eat. And in fact, they note in the article, the loss of sea ice is reducing the supply of krill, the tiny shrimp-like crustaceans that populate the Southern Ocean and are the emperor penguin's main food source. When the ice goes, so do the krill. Sea ice off the western coast of Antarctica, now this is just on the western coast, has been on the increase because of breakups of glaciers and winds, but by 2100, all 45 known emperor penguin colonies in Antarctica will be on decline because of the loss of sea ice. So somebody cherry-picked this information and then presented it as fact so that this poor schlub who called into our program yesterday with this whole, do you know the story of the emperor penguins? Let me tell you about this, science by anecdote. And, if he wants to call back and tell me which right-winger he heard it from, I'm really curious. Who's been cherry-picking the science? But they are all in the pockets of these oil billionaires, which is why they're denying science. I mean, if there was somebody who could make a buck profiting off denying gravity, they'd all be saying, yeah, gravity, it's only a theory. And it's true. It's only a theory. Nobody knows how gravity... Electricity, it's only a theory. It's true. Nobody knows how electricity works. But I don't see anybody saying, I'm not going to use electric lights because it's only a theory. We don't know how it works. This is nuts.